Gospels today, huh? How many of you hate your family and your kids and want to sell all you have? G.K. Chesterton is supposed to have said that Christianity is a faith that comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable. And I think there is very deep truth to those words. They are true because the church must be faithful to her founder, Jesus Christ. Ultimately, Christ wants us to become saints. He wants us to have this infinite joy of really loving and then being with him forever in heaven. That is the goal of church, my friends. Okay, that is what we do every day, is to get us into heaven. Now, as any parent knows, that sometimes true love is tough love. Am I right? And so Christ, he isn't afraid to shake us out of our comfort zone, to call us into a deeper relationship with him. And so his words in our gospel today are very important. Luke tells us that great crowds were traveling with Jesus. He turned and he addressed them. What did Jesus say to the great crowds? If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, even his own life, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Now, what about that great commandment to love? Isn't Christ telling us to hate every person that we encounter who we should be loving the most? Absolutely not. And so in ancient Palestine, they had figures of speech back then, just like we have today, and they were very vivid. And so the more important the point, the more vivid the image. And so, for example, when Christ says, if your hand causes you to sin, what are you supposed to do? All right, you all have two hands, right? It's a figure of speech. He's not saying that every person who's stolen a cookie from the cookie jar should start amputating body parts. He's not saying that. He is saying that we need to be radical in our fight against sin. And so if a certain situation or place or person is leading us away from God, he wants us to have the courage to renounce that situation or place and put healthy boundaries with that person. And so in the same way, today's gospel is not a divine license to hate everybody we encounter. Christ means that unless we love him more than we love our families, we truly cannot follow him. And if we value our own life, if we value our own comfort more than our love of Jesus, we will not be able to experience the joy of a deep personal friendship with him. And so, dear friends, this actually means that we are called to love each other more. So often, we love others for what they can do for us, or we love them in a possessive way. But the more we put Christ first in our lives, the more we truly learn to love others. You've all heard of Mother Teresa, yes? Of Calcutta? We've all seen pictures of her holding sick babies or a dying person. We know that there's something authentic about her. We know that this rings true. And so the saints are those who love God above all things. And they love others with that same love. And so Christ gives us the key to loving him above all else. It means letting go of our possessive love. And so the first reading from the Book of Wisdom today exclaims, quote, "For the deliberations of mortals are timid, and unsure are our plans. and the earthen shelter weighs down the mind that has many concerns. And so, friends, when we cling to our plans, when we cling to our possessions or to other people, that weighs down our hearts. And so Christ makes this abundantly clear at the end of today's gospel. He says, any one of you who does not renounce all of his possessions cannot be my disciple. Now, let me be clear. He's not saying that everyone should run off and sell their homes right after Mass is over. He's not saying that. We have responsibilities. We have responsibilities to others. We need to use the gifts that God has given to us. We need to use them wisely. He is, however, calling us to give up that possessive, hoarding attitude towards material possessions and towards others. We have to put things in their right place. And so he is inviting us to carry our crosses by renouncing possessions for the infinite gain of loving him above all things. There is a wonderful little story. It's told by an African priest about how hunters in his country trap monkeys. So apparently, they cut a coconut in half. They hollow out its contents, and in one half of the shell, they bore a hole large enough for a monkey's unclenched hand to reach through the hole. Now, in the other part of the coconut, they place an orange. And so they tie the two pieces of the coconut together, and they hang it from a tree. And when an unsuspecting monkey comes swinging by and it smells that orange, it draws near to that coconut, and it puts its hand through the hole. It grabs on to the orange, but he can't get his hand out with a clenched fist. However, it refuses to let go of the orange, and so it remains trapped. And so the hunters spring from their hiding place and they capture the monkey. Now, all the monkey has to do is to let go of the orange in order to escape. But its greed traps it there. And in the end, it loses both the orange and its freedom. And so, dear friends, sometimes all we have to do is to let go. Christ invites us to examine our lives to see what is holding us back. What are we trying to possess? And so, on a very practical way, to renounce in order to have that surpassing greatness of a deeper friendship with Christ, it means reorienting our values. So we might live terrified of what might happen if we lose our job, if we lose our house. And so the antidote to that is to start giving to others. And so, dear friends, decide as a family how you are going to help the less fortunate. Christ says, give and you shall receive. And the more generous we are with others, the more free we become to receive this love of God. We come to Mass each Sunday to receive the body and blood of Christ, who renounced everything in order to die for us, in order to bring us back into relationship with God. And so if we ask him for the courage to love him so much that we renounce this selfishness in our lives and are able to joyfully then repeat the words of today's psalm. In every age, O God, you have been my refuge. And so, dear friends, what do you need to let go of?